This finding is understandable in certain cases in spite of its high significance, that is because the energy efficiency of building operation just represents a single aspect of sustainability.
An important part of Australia's modern history is its immigration from the United States. Discrimination by the government has been abolished, and its place has been taken by a skills-based system that has brought Australia unprecedented economic success. Immigration is essential for cultivating an atmosphere conducive to creativity. Australians are already well positioned to begin a new phase of growth since 1 in 4 of the population is foreign-born.
Here's how to clean your room effectively. To begin, gather all of the items that don't have a home in the space and set them in the center. Remove all garbage from the kitchen and deposit all dirty dishes in the sink. Find a home for each of the items you strewn about the room's center.
The recent contest of Justice Band was supposedly lip-sync and had ended up disappointing several fans. Also, it was reported that 2 people died in the stampede at the end due to poor organization and lack of proper arrangements for the attendees.
This crisis almost brought down the Roman state at Cannae, and according to historian Polybius, it was only because of what he referred to as the Roman constitution's extraordinary qualities that it survived.
Every day, around 1 million new cases of STDs are reported. They can progress to cervical cancer, pelvic inflammatory disease, and infertility if left untreated. A kit created by Eve Medical in Toronto, Canada, provides women with a way to screen themselves for sexually transmitted illnesses. Whenever introverts are contemplating, they search their long-term memory for relevant data. Extroverts tend to make decisions based on previous experiences, which slows down the decision-making process but results in more thoughtful conclusions. This implies that introverts are always conversing with themselves, and as a result, they tend to carry a lot of thoughts around with them.
Malting features of barley grains have been discovered by University of Adelaide researchers. Craft brewers might benefit from the discovery of novel malts or more reliable brewing procedures, according to the researchers. Researchers have uncovered a novel connection between a critical enzyme in malt synthesis for brewing and a particular tissue layer in the barley grain, and their findings have been published in the Nature journal.
Glucose is the primary energy source for the human body. Carbohydrates in meals are digested and released into the circulation, releasing glucose into the body. In order to utilize glucose as a source of energy for cells, it must enter the body's tissues. In addition to being stored in the liver, extra glucose is turned to fat in the body.
At a young age, Charlie Chaplin and his younger brother Sidney were taken into an orphanage. In 1906, he joined Fred Karno's group as a vaudeville performer. This character's iconic, seedy and soft-hearted gentleman tramp routine debuted in Making a Living 1914, which marked the start of an illustrious cinema career. As a result of his ability to masterfully blend pathos with comic acrobatics in several films for various studios, Jack Nicholson became an international star.
its internal combustion engine, allowing the driver to select the power source best suited for a particular excursion. Major U.S. automakers are already working on practical hybrid electric vehicles, and some are looking at fuel cell technology for their electric vehicles.
The majority of state governments are required to adopt a budget that is both balanced and zero-balanced. In other words, even if a budget may meet the legal definition of a balanced budget, it may not be financially viable. This means a budget that is structurally balanced may use non-recurring resources like asset sales or reserves to pay for continuing expenses, despite the fact that it is technically balanced by these standards.
Debunked fake news can nevertheless mislead people's perceptions. Time and over, stories like the Pope endorsing Trump may generate a halo around a politician, even after the tale is revealed to be a fabrication. According to a research published in the journal Intelligence, certain people may have a particularly difficult time rejecting false information. You and your classmates will sit through a lecturer's presentation or discussion of a particular subject while taking notes. Because there will be a lot of material presented in this session, it is critical that you take good notes and plan ahead if you want to ask any questions. Lectures are the primary mode of instruction at your university. Albert Einstein was a well-known scientist and a brilliant physicist in Germany. He was born in the city of Germany on March 14, 1879. In 1900, he published his first paper, establishing himself as the world's foremost scientist. He made a great contribution to physics by discovering the theory of relativity, thanks to his intellectual abilities.
Climate change will cause plants to use more water in the future than they do now, resulting in less water for people in North America and Eurasia. Despite the expected rise in precipitation in populated locations such as the United States and Europe, the research implies a drier future.
Bushfires are not counted as part of a country's annual carbon dioxide emissions since they are considered to be phenomena that are beyond human control. More than 1 million acres have burned in the past 2 summers in the Australian state of Victoria alone, according to government estimates.
An economic depression occurs when economic activity in one or more economies experiences a long-term decline. In the usual course of business, a slowdown in economic activity is called a recession. There are 2 distinct characteristics of economic depressions: long duration and exceptionally big rises in the jobless rate.
Afforestation is the process of planting trees in an area that was previously devoid of any tree cover with the goal of establishing a forest or a stand of trees. Afforestation has become increasingly important in today's world, as it aids in the preservation of environmental biodiversity. Deforestation on a massive scale in our country for the construction of large companies and power plants has had a negative influence on our environment's biodiversity and ecological balance.
Patriotism is defined as a strong attachment to one's homeland. This virtue motivates citizens to strive selflessly for the betterment of their country. True patriots make up a truly developed country. In other words, patriotism is prioritizing the country's interests over one's own. Patriotism is more visible during times of war. Furthermore, it contributes to the nation's strengthening. There are additional aspects of patriotism to consider.